For years, the American public has been victimized by the so-called cinematic geniuses, telling us time and again to see inferior movies, leaving us bitter and lost with nowhere to turn. But no more! This travesty of justice cannot and will not continue, because we now have the Cinema Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. For all my regular listeners, welcome back. If you're new to the show, I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, tell your people. Now at the end of this show, if you're new and you want to know what we are, what we stand for, and what we do, I'll give you a full explanation at the end. But in a nutshell, this is what we're all about. We love movies, and we like to share movies with you. That's what we do here. We have the cast and crew. They pitch it to you. We just collect it as evidence. You're the jury. I'm just a judge. I will never tell you not to see a movie. That's ridiculous to me. You make up your own mind. We all have our own opinions. I give the evidence to you, and you make up your own mind. Consider this your movie oasis. Approaching the bench today, we have the movie Free Guy, starring Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer, and directed by Shawn Levy. And for me personally, this movie hit that perfect sweet spot with comedy, action, romance. This movie is just wonderful. It makes you feel happy throughout the whole movie. I strongly recommend seeing this film. And again, the cast is fantastic. You have Ryan Reynolds and Jodie Comer. Now, if you don't know who she is, do yourself a favor and watch the TV show Killing Eve. She knocks it out of the park. She's going to have a great future ahead of her. And she's going to be in the upcoming movie, The Last Duel. But without further ado, here's a trailer for Free Guy.
Good morning, Goldie. My name is Guy, and I live in Free City. I have everything I need. Except one thing.
Hey! Excuse me. Hey! Hey, bud, you ever think that there's got to be more?
More than what?
The stuff we do day after day.
Literally not once.
Today's gonna be different, Goldie. What are we looking at?
Who are you?
We ran into each other the other day.
How did you find me?
I waited outside by the murder train.
Guy, I have to tell you something. There is no easy way to say this. This world, it's a video game.
I really want to kiss you. Is that weird?
Listen to me. You're not real.
Wait, you let who kiss you?
Guy.
There's not a button for that.
Oh, he found the button.
Buddy, if we're not real, doesn't that mean that nothing you do matters?
I am sitting here with my best friend trying to help him get through a tough time. Now, if that's not real, I don't know what is.
Millie, I know this world is just a game, but this place, these people, that's all I have.
Thanks, Guy.
Who is this guy?
This character in the video game Free City has been turning heads by being the good guy.
Who is blue shirt guy?
You're absolutely right. Who is he or she, indeed?
This loser is ruining the game, man.
I don't care if he's Arnold frickin' Schwarzenegger. Terminate him.
We're doing great.
Guy, in 2 days, the game is gonna shut down. You, this whole city, they'll be gone.
What if we can save it?
Was that cool? It felt really cool. We can change our world, but we have to fight together. I don't even know what's happening right now, but I love it! This is the first time I've ever driven a car before.
I really wish you'd mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You love you, blue shirt guy!
Thank you. Watch out for the... They seem nice.
Now coming up first, we're going to hear from the director, Shawn Levy. And he's going to go behind the whole process of making this movie, because it was first made by 20th Century Fox, and then they were bought by Disney. So with all those things moving around, this movie finally got made and finally presented to us because obviously things went sideways in 2019 and 2020. So they had to really kept kicking this one further down the line. And when I first saw that trailer, I'm like, I have to see this movie. So I'm very happy that it finally came out. And I was lucky enough to see it in the theater. So here he is talking about that whole process.
Free Guy was an interestingly timed production because we developed it and got greenlit at and by 20th Century Fox. While making the movie, Disney acquired Fox, so suddenly we were making the movie for new bosses who thankfully loved the movie as much as we and Fox had already. But it also gave us certain opportunities, not only to amplify the release of the movie around the world, but to maybe, it was our hope, play with certain toys in the Disney toy chest. And to our great thrill, when we went to Disney and said, hey, you have all these incredible franchises, can we maybe play with some of these iconic toys in your chest? And to our great thrill, they said yes. So Free Guy was the beneficiary of new owners, and very generous owners at that.
I just love that interview, talking about how they had to give all these other places working together to use their products. And I'm not going to give anything away, but there are moments in this movie where things pop up of that nature, and you just want to almost stand up and cheer. You know, I got little goosebumps going. I was like, oh, for whatever it is that is buried inside our subconscious, when we hear things or see certain things, it brings us right back to that certain area. And they do that in this film. There are little segments that only last maybe a couple seconds, but it makes you just feel good. Now, in the next interview, he talks about how this movie is very unlike, I'm putting air quotes here, superhero movies. You know, how they're all highly skilled, have super outfits. This movie is just a relatable character. You and me, people who live day to day, doing our humdrum lives. And that's what kind of attracted him to this project. So here he is talking about how relatable this character is.
We obviously all love superhero stories and we love origin stories. But the truth is, all of us in real life, we don't wear capes, we don't have superpowers, we don't walk around in unitard tights that, fit tightly across bulging muscles. We're just trying to do the right thing in the real world with the real skills and ethics and goodwill that we have. So I like the idea of a new kind of superhero, a relatable, grounded, normal person who's armed with nothing but optimism, basic good versus evil morality, and a commitment to being good, a commitment to, as we say in the movie, being the good guy. Because I think that that's something that all of us can do, and that the movie is very much about those ideas of, well, how do you want to live, and how do you want to use the power and the potential that you do have? So that's very much the theme of the movie, and hopefully it's the message that audiences receive.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Ryan Reynolds, who plays Guy. He's going to talk about how his character is taking control of his life, and how other characters are doing the same thing, and how that meant to him and everybody else making this film that sometimes we all get stuck, and we feel like we have no control. And that's what really drew him to this story.
Yeah, the story being about taking control of your life and why that having that narrative, funneled through both my character and Jodie Comer's character of Millie, why that was important to me and why it was important to Shawn. I think most people can, at certain points in their lives, look around and kind of pinch themselves and think, am I living in some kind of simulation here? Like, is this all for real? And I like the idea of people stepping out of the shadows and into their light and into their power and taking, some agency in their own outcomes. And that's really what this is about. And we're smuggling all of this into a video game premise, so to speak. But the movie really isn't a video game movie. I mean, it is a movie about taking control of your life. And it's all set within a huge action, adventure, comedy, romantic kind of movie, and it's a type of movie they don't, usually make anymore. These are, everything is a sequel or everything is based on a comic book or IP. So for us, it was really important to make a wholly original blockbuster summer film.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from the director, Shawn Levy, and he talks about tone And like I mentioned earlier, I personally feel he hit it perfect, that sweet spot. Everything just hit on the mark. They were funny, they were serious, there was romance. I could go on and on. But for me, this was a perfect summer movie. And this is him talking about tone.
My job as a director is the balancing of tone. And the movies that I try to make, the movies that I love most as an audience member, are movies that aren't just one thing. So I knew that Free Guy needed to be funny, but I also knew that the bonus points were really to be found in, could it be, in addition to funny, could it be filled with spectacle and deep and warm in its heart? And so balancing action, comedy, and heart, that was the job I gave to myself. It's what I felt would be the best version of the movie. And that was literally my aspiration every day when we worked on the script, every day on set, every day in the edit room and through post-production. And as I said, that really, tone is the work of the director. You have to shoot the movie, come up with ideas, etc. But really the balancing of how the movie feels and how its style communicates its tone, that's my job, and it's a job I love doing.
Now, coming up next, we're going to play a clip from Free Guy. Now, in this clip, it pretty much summarizes his morning routine for Guy. He wakes up, says hi to his fish, he goes to his closet. Everything in the closet is always the same. There's a blue shirt with khakis. He puts it on, he's listening to the morning news, and outside his window, all these helicopters are flying by and explosions are happening, and a news guy is talking about all these really chaotic events that are going to happen with just a super light tone, because they're in a video game, but they don't know it. But these are the things that happen all the time in a game, so in their world, that's just totally cool. And then he goes to a coffee shop and he gets a coffee made, and this scene is just a perfect example of just a fun tone in this film.
Good morning, Goldie.
Front of warm, dry gunfire mixed with late afternoon stabbings. Sunday should be warm and sunny, just a scattering of drive-bys. Great day for the beach, but not Hitman's Beach, which will be mined and sprayed with high-caliber fire.
Medium coffee, cream 2 sugars.
You know it. Who put a flavor grenade in my mouth? Pull the pin. Thank you for making this with such love.
You're welcome.
Officer Johnny! Have a good one, guy. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Now, approaching the bench next, we had the director, Shawn Levy, and he talks about the greatness of Ryan Reynolds. But what he also mentions is what a great producer he is and how committed he is. I just love hearing these kind of interviews where you hear somebody say, hey, this guy is in it 100%. So this is him talking about Ryan Reynolds.
The thing about Ryan Reynolds is we know he's this mega movie star. We know he's a great actor. We know he's a comedic genius. What I didn't know, and what people would be astounded to learn, is that he's also, and I'm not just saying this, he may be the best producer I've ever produced alongside in my career. And this was my 12th movie. Ryan, when he signs on to produce something, he brings all of himself. He brings his creative ideas in script. He often does a lot of the rewriting himself. He sat there in the edit room with me, cutting the movie, coming up with new ideas, new jokes, new scenes, which we would then go and shoot with literally a home camera on the weekends. And we would edit it into the movie and try new versions of the movie. So Ryan is a full service partner, and he is as formidable and as additive as a producer as he is as a movie star.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Ryan Reynolds. And he was asked the question, why does he feel this movie is relevant today?
So the question is, why is the movie so relevant to our world today? I think a lot of people feel like their daily lives. I mean, while these are obviously not, I'm not being literal with this, a lot of people sometimes feel like they've spent their day being shot, stabbed, run over, smashed in the face and stripped of their dignity. And that's kind of what happens with NPCs in this movie. And NPCs means non-playable character. Basically a background character, an expendable character that is just designed or used for, violence or your own kind of weird, idea of kicks. So I think it's relevant today because, I think that's something a lot of people kind of feel, both figuratively and literally. So, there's a lot going on in the world, and, to produce a movie that is, a fastball of joy is, I think, much needed respite in the storm of today. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Lil Rel, who plays Buddy. I love his character. He plays Guy's best friend. Every day they go through the same routine. And in this interview, he talks about how this movie is just a ball of joy.
No, but Ryan Reynolds is right. This is a fast ball of joy, this movie is. Just because, what's funny? You can make a movie like this and it can be darker than what we did. But what we did was keep the heart and the joy in the movie. I mean, from the time, if you think about it, when it opens, it's joy. When it closes, it's joy. With a lot going on in between. But at the same time, I think that's why audiences are going to love it. And I think that's why, even though this movie has been pushed a couple of times, honestly, right now I feel like it's perfect timing just because where we at in the world and the different Easter eggs we have in this movie of messages and you'll see without me giving away, but it's a fastball of joy, like he said.
Now, coming up next, we're going to play a clip from Free Guy. Now, in this particular scene, we have Guy doing his morning routine. He's walking down the street. He looks in the department store window and he sees these tennis shoes that he really wants. He's like, ooh, someday I'll get those shoes. He goes to instant cash machine and he's just a little bit close to getting it, but he doesn't have enough money yet. But he's like, okay, soon. And he walks down the street just feeling happy. And then he runs into Buddy and they're both walking to work. And then somebody comes crashing out a window and they're like, hey, how's it going today? It's just a fun scene.
Hold the fudge. You mean to tell me that nobody snapped up those bad boys? Today's the day.
Like every other day.
I'll be back for those.
Oh, so close. This is the greatest cup of coffee of all time. I want to write a song about it.
I want to dance to that song with my body.
I love my life. It's something about finding your lane and just staying in it.
That's why they call them comfort zones. They're so damn comfortable.
Oh, Joe!
Oh, Mondays, am I right, Joe?
You said it, guy.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Jodie Comer. And she talks about how she has two people she plays in this movie. And in this film, both characters are slightly different, but she plays them so well. One girl who's in the computer game is called Molotov Girl, and the other character is just Millie. And Millie, in real life, she helped create parts of this game. But she has to, her and her partner at one point made a game, and she feels that guy ripped off the code. She's trying to go into this game by playing it and try to find these little clues or Easter eggs. Of course, Guy finds her and sees her and goes, his mind just gets blown. This is her talking about her playing two characters.
Yeah, I think for me, the idea of playing the two characters was something that I found really attractive, and was a huge reason why I was interested in being part of the film. When I first read the script, I was so intrigued as to how they were going to kind of explore and show the two worlds on screen. And I think for me, the biggest thing to kind of differentiate the two was physicality. Millie has her strengths in very different ways. She has a very firm belief in herself and who she is and what's right. Whereas Molotov is all about the exterior. It's what she's physically able to do and how she kind of navigates the video game. So it was great for me. It was something that was like a huge conversation especially with Shawn, our director. From the very early stages as to what's the costume going to be like, accents, how would she speak in the video game. There was a lot of kind of freedom in that. But it was always important for there to be a real essence of Millie within Molotov. We didn't want them to feel disconnected in any way. So hopefully they didn't.
Now, in this next scene, it's that particular scene I was talking about where his mind gets blown. He sees her for the first time. He's walking to work. It's like his normal routine. And in the distance, he sees Molotov Girl, played by Jodie Comer, walking down the street. And since she plays that game all the time and she knows it like the back of her hand, whenever she's walking by somebody, she says what that character would say every time that they'd meet. So she's saying this, repeat, whatever they say. And then when she says Guy's line to him, he says, I love that song, because she's singing the song as she's approaching him. And then she's like, whoa, well, that's new and different. And then she keeps walking away, and he's just in total awe. And while she's walking away, again, there's this is a video game. So in the background, you see cars cruising by, exploding, and things like that. And his friend Buddy is like, hey, dude, what's going on? So this is the scene from Free Guy.
Wow, life in the big city. Ain't nothing like it.
Looks like rain. Has anyone seen my hat?
It's such a sweet, sweet thing.
You know, some guy, people say it all the time. Like, guy can take a shoe to the face better than anybody I know. I mean, when you put it on there, you act like
It's just a sweet, sweet fantasy thing. When I close my eyes,
Don't have a good day, have a great day.
Love that song.
That's a new one.
That's her.
Her who?
That's my dream girl, buddy.
Now, approaching the bench next, we have Jodie Comer. She talks about, again, like the other people said earlier, what a ball of joy this movie is. But she also talks about the whole audition process, about how when she met them, how good she felt, and how they encouraged her. So here she is talking about that whole process.
It is a fast ball of joy. I feel like that's a perfect catchphrase from Ryan. And I think it's hugely down to the people who were making it. I've said this before, but from the moment I met Shawn and Ryan in my audition room in New York, I flew over there. I just finished Killing Eve like the day before, and they were so welcoming, and it felt like a safe space to play around and try different things. I didn't feel like I was being judged in any way. They were really rooting for me to do the best work that I could, and that continued through the whole shoot. It was impossible not to have a good day when you were on set, because it is silly and it has a lot of heart, and we all had such an amazing time making it that I feel like you can't help but feel and experience that when you're sat watching it at home or in the cinema.
Now, coming up next, we have a great interview from Ryan Reynolds. He talks about the significance of Blue Shirt Guy. He talks about when he was growing up, the jobs he had, the jobs his brothers had. And I just love this. It makes them, the actor people, the big shots, seem a little bit more relatable. And he pretty much is a pretty relatable guy, even though he's this massively successful guy. At least he comes off as just, hey, one of us. And it's not contrived or anything like that. So when I hear him talk about this whole mentality of these kind of people, and he's been there, he's been, quote, us, I believe it, and I feel he's sincere. So in this interview, he talks about how being a person in a blue shirt and how that affects their lives and how he implemented that into this movie.
Well, the blue shirt, the significance of blue shirt is, I remember years and years ago, I worked at Safeway, a grocery store in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I was also working at a yacht, like a fancy yacht club as a busboy. And I just remember, both loving my job, the Safeway job in particular, but the yacht club part was tough because I always felt so invisible. And at the same time, my brother worked at Kinko's, which had a similar kind of uniform as what Guy is wearing in the movie. So that was something I'd written into the script early on and liked because it just sort of felt like a Ned Flanders-y kind of background palette that that anybody. So I like that Blue Shirt Guy that literally becomes his name in the movie, Blue Shirt Guy. Like they don't even give him an identity. It's just Blue Shirt Guy. And he slowly but surely, grows an identity and grows a real purpose and learns how to fight back. And that's where he steps into being Guy, just Guy. And even says it a few times in the movie, my name is Guy. And I love that. So the clothing choice was certainly intentional. But those sorts of things are very important in movies like this. So, and I also like Halloween costumes, meaning that I like movies where you can see an immediately identifiable costume, And the following Halloween, if you see somebody dressed in that, you're like, oh, that's from the movie, blah, blah, blah. You know, like so that's part of it too, is I like that it was immediately identifiable as Guy from our movie.
Coming up next, we're going to have another fun clip from Free Guy. In this scene, Free Guy, he's standing at almost the edge of town. He's looking out at the ocean. And then from behind him, 2 cops show up. And they, in the real life, are like programmers. And they've been designated to find this guy who's been kind of messing up the game, doing nice things and collecting all these points. And people are really supporting him and rallying around him all around the world. They feel or think that he's just a hacker. And they confront him and say, hey, lose that skin. Blue guy, or blue shirt guy, he has no idea what they're talking about. He just feels like, I'm just a guy. How can I take off my skin? It's a great scene from Free Guy.
Seriously, man, I'm just being honest. I think the bunny suit is just a little much.
Excuse me?
Right. Rabbit, okay? My fault.
Hey, 40-year-old virgin! Get over here!
Let's go.
Uh-huh. Captain Khakis, come here.
Go, let's go.
Come on, bud.
Closer.
There he is. Blue shirt guy.
Blue shirt. Yes. Hello, officer. Rabbit?
Nice skin.
Thank you. That's sweet.
How'd you get it?
Well, mostly genetics, I think. I'm pretty lucky. I have naturally dewy skin.
Listen up, Neutrogena. You know you can't go around looking like that. The rules are clear. And another thing, you can't hack the NPC avatars.
No, sir.
It screws up the mission load, and it makes the game look bad.
Horrible!
Yeah. I got like 5% of that.
Lose the skin!
How am I supposed to get rid of my skin?
Take it off, man. Just take it off. What are you doing?
What?
Seriously.
The whole thing, the face, the outfit, everything. Ditch it. If you don't, we're gonna kill you.
Why?
And we're gonna keep killing you.
Still why?
Until we do find out who you are, and then we're gonna ban you for life.
No. Okay, I want to comply. I just find the order of those threats very confusing.
Somebody's about to get shot.
Light him up!
Coming up next, we'll hear from the director, and he's going to talk about the complete freedom he was able to have making this movie.
The fun opportunity of Free Guy is that it's a video game movie that is not beholden to any video game. So as a director, I'm able to not only create the movie on your screen, but I was able to design and devise my own video game however I wanted. So there was literally maximum freedom, because the whole video game world of Free City is a world with no rules. So similarly, as a director, to be able to create a game world, a fictional world with no rules and where everything is possible, where literally the world can reshape visibly and physically around you, that was every director's dream, because I was able to create and brainstorm and try stuff with no regulator, no limiter on what made sense, because it all makes sense, because I was the creator of that world within the world.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Jodie Comer. She's going to talk about all the stunts she had to do in this movie and how she had to do a lot more than she's ever done before.
Yeah, so I think for me, the stunts were definitely the biggest challenge. It was definitely the most I've done in any project I've been a part of. I did as much as I could. I was really determined to do that. But I had an incredible stunt double called Haley Wright, who did the really, really cool stuff. I can't take credit for that. But yeah, there's some huge action sequences in this film. So when I got to Boston, I got there a couple of weeks before we started filming, and I would do like an hour of my own kind of personal fitness workout. And then I would do like 3 hours a day with the stunt team. Because what I've learned about stunts is they're very much like a dance. You know, it's all choreography, and you know, you've got to focus on what you're doing. You've got to make it feel real, but then you also have to keep the person opposite you safe. Like there's so much that goes into that. And it's the closest I've ever worked with a stunt department. And I just I take my hat off to them all, because without them, the film would not be what it is.
Now, coming up next, we're going to play another clip from Free Guy. And like she was just saying to us before, this scene would be a very stunt-heavy scene. Obviously, you can't see it, so I'm going to try to walk you through it the best I can. In this scene, Ryan Reynolds' character and her character are in like a den or a lair of this bad guy, and there's all these fancy cars and what have you. and he's on a motorcycle, and she's fighting people off to the side, all this action scene going on, and then she does this big flip and lands on the motorcycle on his lap, and then, some comedy ensues there, and they spin out, and they fly out the window, and then everything goes in slow motion once you hear a song playing, and the song is just perfectly placed for this scene. So they're just gazing into each other's eyes, slow motion, going like pretty much off a cliff, if you will, and then you hear the rest from there.
Wow! You should definitely go!
Is that a Glock in your pocket?
No,
What?
it's 2 Glocks.
Oh!
I don't suppose this thing can fly.
No.
Jump.
Coming up next, we'll hear from Jodie Comer, and she's going to talk about the whole atmosphere of on the set.
I think out of everyone, I was definitely probably one of the ones who was cracking up a lot, especially with Ryan, because I had a lot of time spent with Ryan. There's actually a scene in the film where we're eating bubblegum ice cream, and he says a joke, and he probably had like 5 jokes ready, and there was a lot of takes of me just hysterically laughing, and I think Shawn was like, "You can just laugh a little bit less. She's a little bit cooler than that." So yeah, it was great. I mean, it just, that kind of atmosphere just trickled all the way through the set. It was a very easygoing, fun set to be on, and to get to witness how, Ryan and Ukarsh and Taika work. There was one day I went to set because I had a costume fitting, and Taika was filming, and he was improvising for about 10 minutes. And I just sat there on my day off on a chair and watched him do it because I was so impressed. So yeah, it was very, very fun, and I took a lot away from it.
Coming up next, we'll hear from Ryan Reynolds, and he's going to talk about the whole joy of seeing films in the theater, the whole group feeling.
Well, as somebody who, grew up adoring and loving going to theaters and watching movies and having that communal experience, I still love it. I got to screen Free Guy in Boston a couple of weeks ago and watch it with a theater filled with people, and it was just such a wonderful communal experience. It's also so contagious to enjoy that laughter, that sort of you sort of, when someone else laughs, you laugh along with them, and I don't know, there's something about that community experience that I will always love. So
coming up next, we'll hear from Lil Rel, and he's going to talk about how he's looking forward to having people see this film in the theaters.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited for audience to see Free Guy in movie theaters on the big screen, just because it's really a big movie. Outside, it has the heart, it has the comedy, has a romance, but it really does have action and just this beautiful layer of special effects and sound. So to see that with the theater, it's a theater movie. I mean, yes, you can watch it at home, but it is a theater experience movie. And it's so fast paced, I think audiences won't be bored at all. So I think it's very important for them to go to theaters and see this so they get the full experience of Free Guy.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Ryan Reynolds at the world premiere of Free Guy. And just to let you know, in the background, there's a lot of people, so you're going to hear a lot of background noise. So I don't know how you're listening to this and how well he might come across, but just so you know, it's at the red carpet at the world premiere.
Oh, I mean, I think it's more timely now than it ever was. The movie is in and of itself just a fastball of joy, and it's so exciting to be a part of a movie that is non-IP, not a comic book movie, not really based on anything other than an original idea. And they're the kinds of movies that I went to as a kid, and I my hat's off to Disney and 20th Century for taking the time and investing in a new concept. Especially a big one like this, which is a big swing, and the early reactions have been incredible. So we could not be happier. We're so thrilled. Well, it's like I remember when I saw Back to the Future as a kid. It was like one of those movies that just like immersed you in a world and blew your mind. And that's what this film does. It really takes you somewhere else, and it leaves you walking out of the theater with a huge grin on your face. And I just kind of miss that feeling. It doesn't happen as often as I think we'd like, and particularly over the last 16, 17 months, it's been pretty crazy. So I'm really excited for audiences to get a chance to go and enjoy this. Well, I mean, the movie has a lot of themes that I think resonate with people. For me, it's a little bit about when we band together and come out of the shadows. You can do anything if you're unified agents of change, and like that's sort of what this movie is about. Is about people who are in the background getting to step into the light and make a difference. And I think that really, particularly in the society we're living right now, is pretty resonant.
Like the one you just heard, up next we're going to hear from the director, Shawn Levy, and he's also at the world premiere. So again, you're going to hear a lot of background noise, but it's still a cool interview to hear if you're able to listen to it without that stuff, too much of a distraction in the background.
We made this movie almost 2 years ago, and the whole point of it was just a good time at the movies, a joyous audience experience with some optimism and maybe an antidote to very cynical times. Little did we know that in the interim, times would have become even more, frankly, troubling, depressing, cynical. So to make a kind of crowd-pleasing action comedy with big heart, that was always the goal, but I feel like it's maybe more needed now than ever before. Well, I know when I go to a summer movie, what do I want? I want spectacle, I want laughs, I want heart. And I feel like if we did our job right, Free Guy delivers on all three fronts. Well, the whole job of being a director is how you blend tone and how you combine the elements. So this movie needed to be more than action. It needed to be more than just funny or warm. And so in every scene, I'm kind of looking at how to keep that balance right. A good time at the movies. I want them to take a good time at the movies, and I want them to take these themes of optimism and the possibility of hope.
Now, coming up next, we're going to have Jodie Comer at the London premiere.
It feels incredible to be in London for the premiere of Free Guy. Even though it's raining, it's honestly, this film is so joyous, and to be able to kind of bring it to the big screen and have many people experience it together is, I feel like I've been craving this for like a year and a half. So yeah, I feel incredibly lucky. Yeah, so I play two characters. One of them is Millie, and she lives in the real world, and she has created an avatar called Molotov Girl, who kind of navigates the game Free City. And she meets this character called Guy, and Guy thinks he is a real person in the real world, but slowly comes to the realization that he's actually a background character in an open world video game. And it kind of spirals from there, really. Yeah. It's amazing. I always go, shall I say something terrible? But he's honestly, he's so wonderful. Like, what you see is what you get, I even, before meeting him, I was like, is he really that nice? Can he be that nice? But he is. And he's incredibly generous, charming, hilarious, and really created, a really kind of safe, fun space for everyone to kind of play around with on set. So I feel very lucky that this was my first experience. Yeah, it really was. It took me a good few weeks to kind of get over that. I was incredibly intimidated, having come from a lot of television. I'd always kind of told myself, oh, there are film actresses and actors, and there are TV actors and actresses. And then when I got to set, I realized, it's enormous. The sets are enormous, and everything is just on a much bigger scale. But how you prepare, the people involved, all the meat and bones of it is still the same. So once I got over that, it was great. I would say get your bums to the theatre immediately and watch Free Guy. If you're like me and are looking for a couple of hours of sheer joy and happiness, this film will give you that, I promise you. I dare you not to have a good time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Free Guy. In just my honest personal opinion, I strongly recommend you see this film. And if you don't see it in the theaters, when it comes out for on-demand or renting or buying, I strongly suggest you see it, because when this comes out on DVD, I'm going to buy it. It's that good. I really enjoyed this film. Now, everything after this is just my thank yous to everybody who listened last week. And if you want to know more about the show, where you could watch this TV show, because this show is also a TV version, and you could watch the scenes and B-roll and everything like that. Because there's a few scenes I had to cut that I couldn't put on this episode because there was more visual. There was maybe one sentence in them, so I had to cut that scene. So if you want to watch the TV version of this, I'll give you that information coming up shortly. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, ways to improve the show, please feel free to contact me, cinemajudge@hotmail.com. I can't fix what I don't know what's broken. I don't care what you have to say. If you want me to do this more or this less, whatever it is, I want to grow because I want you to listen. If I do terrible things, you're not going to listen. So what's the point? I don't want to repeat things that people don't enjoy. Now, if you're interested in watching the TV version of this show, go to Bloomington, Minnesota's webpage. That's BLM as in Bloomington, .mn/BTV-shows and type in Cinema Judge, and a whole bunch of shows will show up. Not 20 years worth, but there's still a few. And you're wondering what the difference between this and the TV version is? Well, that's a whole bunch. On a TV version, you don't see or hear me at all. It's all interviews and information. No interruptions from this guy. But on there, you see a lot more B-roll and things of that nature. Here, clearly, you can't do that. So if you want to watch the interviews in the scenes, go to that website, look up Cinema Judge, and there'll be a lot there for you to watch. Now, it's one of my favorite times of the show. It's where I thank you, all the people who listened to the last episode. This is my shout out to you. So from everybody all around the world, I can't tell you how grateful I am. And I hope my voice finds you well, or you're getting close to it. And I love hearing from everybody talking about how they listen to the show. Some of you listen while you're going to work or coming back from work, or if you're sitting at home or just doing work around the lawn. Whatever you're doing, I truly am grateful. Like I said, wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. To all my listeners around the United States, Mongolia, and Germany, you guys are fantastic. My listeners in Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Farmington, Minnesota, you guys tuning in every week, thank you so much. Annandale, Virginia, you guys always stop in. Thank you so much. Pasadena, California, I hope everything's going okay out there, because I know with the heat and everything like that, and the fires, I hope everything's going well out in California. Holyoke, Mass. Did I say that right? Whatever it is, Mass, thank you for stopping in. Bergenfield, New Jersey. New Jersey, thanks for tuning in. So many of you from New Jersey stop in. I am very grateful. Thanks for sharing it with people you might know. Monticello, Minnesota. Thanks, Monticello. Washington, Virginia. Every episode, whether it be a blockbuster or just an independent film, you're always listening. I am very grateful. And to my listeners in Frankfurt, thank you so much for listening. Every one of you. When I look on my phone or the computer and I see somebody new listens to an episode, I am truly honored that you take time out of your busy life to listen to this show. And I hope that means I'm doing a good job, and that means that you love movies as much as I do. And this week's special bourbon toast goes out to Ron from Imagine Theaters. I remember walking out of Free Guy and we were talking about the movie. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking to you more. So here's to you, Ron. Cheers. And now, the final segment of this show is my music section. What I do here is this. When I make this episode, not the podcast, but the TV version that I use to make this podcast, I sometimes take hours or days to make that. Because like this one, they gave me a different kind of file. So that file had to be compressed and altered every time, especially the audio. So it really took every edit more time. So in the process of making this episode, I went through a ton of albums. Because I think it took me maybe 3 days to do it, give or take. I can't remember exactly. But I started off with the great Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here. Then right after that, I went into their album, Animals. Again, a great album. If you haven't listened to it in a while or have never listened to it, look up Pink Floyd, Animals. And also Wish You Were Here. But then I still wasn't done. So then I put on Meddle. That's Meddle. It's a little more obscure, but that has some great songs on there. And the one song that everybody knows from there, if you're a Floyd fan at all, is Echoes. Great song. I wasn't done with the show yet. So then I go, I need something to pick me up a little bit. So then I put on Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I haven't listened to that album in its entirety in probably several years, and it just brought back a flood of memories of that era, of my friends and myself just having a great time going to parties, listening to that album. And then I realized back in the day, that was kind of one of our party albums. It took me years to actually finish that whole album because we always started listening to it in the car, we stop, we get out, and what have you. But anyway, so I had to listen to Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction because I heard they have a new album coming out. So I said, why not throw down? And it was a great time. And I still wasn't done yet again. So then, since I was in the GNR mode, I just put on their greatest hits. And then finally, I was able to get done with this episode. So that's what I was listening to while I was making this. Well, that's it. My glass is full. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you and to the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.